It's election year, and of course, that means tons of political scandals and allegations. But there was one recent scandal that was so cartoonishly over the top that it caught my eye. And when I started looking deeper into it, I found something way worse than corruption and bribery. I found yet another story of a wealthy, powerful individual who took an innocent person's life and never faced any consequences for it. Let's get into it. Hi, y'all, and welcome back. If you're new here, my name is Delaney, and I'm a true crime writer and big-time murder nerd. On this channel, I like to take deep dives into terrible cases, and I tend to cuss a lot. If that sounds like something you'd be into, go ahead and subscribe. If not, that's cool. You do you. So normally on this channel, I don't really get into current political scandals, but I will make an exception for Josh and Jim Bob Duggar. Today, I want to talk about the scandal around Bob Menendez, the Democratic senator from New Jersey, specifically his wife Nadine, and the brand new Mercedes she was given in 2019. For one, it's at the nexus of two of my favorite issues, true crime and urbanism. For another, this story is a lot like the boat accident in the Alec Murdaugh case, where rich, powerful people are treated very differently by law enforcement, even when they have clearly taken someone's life. Let's start with Bob Menendez. Just quickly, he's been the senator from New Jersey since 2006. Importantly, he was chair of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee from 2013 to 2015, and again from 2021 to 2023. There's a lot of ins, a lot of outs, a lot of what have yous, but the gist is he's accused of using his position as chair of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee to benefit Egypt in exchange for hundreds of thousands of dollars in bribes. He's also alleged to, among other things, have used his power and influence to secure and maintain lucrative government and military contracts for his cronies in Egypt and Qatar. Even worse, though, allegedly, he gave sensitive U.S. intel to the government of Egypt. When the FBI raided his home in summer 2022, they found almost $500,000 in cash stuffed into jacket pockets, closets, and a safe, along with 13 gold bars. And in the garage, they found a 2019 Mercedes-Benz convertible, which, as it turns out, is an extremely important part of this story. Anyway, the Menendezes, along with their various co-conspirators, are facing multiple charges of bribery and conspiring to act as a foreign agent. But I want to go back to December 12th, 2018, in Bogota, New Jersey. Yes, that's how it's pronounced. It was a cold Wednesday night, and Nadine Arslanian, who was then Bob Menendez's girlfriend, was driving through Bogota, heading out to a fancy dinner with friends. Richard Koop, who was 49 at the time, was on the opposite trajectory. Richard was a devoted father and loving family member to his siblings, nieces, and nephews. He was described as an avid outdoorsman who loved going to Vermont to fish and camp. He was also a big music fan, and all his friends remembered him for being extremely kind and down to earth. Earlier that evening, he'd gone to one of his favorite local pubs and had a few drinks. When he left around 7 p.m., he did the responsible thing and called an Uber to take him home. The driver took him to his home on East Main Street, but because the Uber was on the far side of the street from where his house is, the driver just let Richard out, literally right across the street from his home. Security cam footage from a nearby auto repair captures most of what happened. The video shows the moments immediately after she hits him. Richard's body is shown being thrown up onto the hood of Nadine's black Mercedes with enough force to shatter her windshield, knocking him out of his shoes. In the video, she immediately stops once she hits him. That sends his body forward, off her hood, and into the street. Nadine then just sits there for several seconds, then backs up a little, pulls forward, drives around Richard's body lying in the street, then parks her car out of sight of the security camera. She doesn't call 911 for 5 fucking minutes after hitting him. At no point does she get out of her car to render aid or see if he's okay. Neighbors called 911 before she did, and a random passerby ran up to him to check on him. That 5-minute delay is bad enough as is, But what's crazy is that this woman apparently calls the police all the damn time. NorthJersey.com obtained records showing she had contacted her local police in Englewood Cliffs at least 18 times in the previous 14 years. Over stuff like a neighbor running over her flower pots, seeing a suspicious car on her street, and because she thought she was being followed. On December 18th, when she finally did call 911, she immediately sets up the story. Some guy just jumped in front of my car. My ass. First, you don't jump out of your own shoes. That only happens when a person is hit by a vehicle. But most obviously, no one can jump up on a car hood with enough force to put their head through the windshield. When police and first responders arrive, they note that Richard appears to have suffered severe head trauma. Duh. Along with several other fractures. He didn't have a pulse, but first responders took him to a local hospital where he was declared dead on arrival. Richard's ex-wife, who had to identify his body, would later say he'd suffered so much trauma that he was barely recognizable. When the police start to question her at the scene, the first thing Nadine says is that she wants a lawyer.
All right, Nadine, I just want to get your statement because everything's being recorded. So you were explaining to me what happened.
I just want to ask you someone else is that I'm not supposed to answer anything before I get an attorney.
Okay, you're requesting an attorney?
You're not under arrest.
For an accident investigation.
The cops repeatedly assure her that she's not under arrest and give every indication that they don't think she's at fault. When she does talk to them, she repeats her story that Richard ran across the roadway and jumped onto the hood of her car.
So we need to know what transpired, the direction you were headed, what happened on your end, so that we can hand that to the which direction? Alright. Do you have any problem with us?
I don't have a problem with it. But the only thing is that I know that I do this attorney and or speaking to an attorney. So I don't want to do anything wrong.
That's perfectly fine. I
So that's why I
100%
don't
get
want
where
to
you're
break
coming from.
the rule.
You're not.
That's what it is.
Look, I get it. I get it.
Why was the guy in the middle of the street?
Well, that's what we're trying to figure out. That's what, our job is to investigate everything that happens. That's what we're trying to do. Obviously, the more information.
Do anything wrong?
No. Look, I understand. It does expedite our investigation when people can help us out. Because if we can clear you from any wrongdoing, I want to get you home and comfortable and not here anymore. You get what I'm saying?
The police ask to see her phone. At first, she agrees, but then immediately revokes her consent and the officers give it back to her.
Before you go, I just want to confirm that you do not want to give me your phone, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. And that's your statement that you were driving this way, the guy came from this way, and he ran into your vehicle.
He jumped on my windshield. Yeah.
Okay.
She's never asked about drugs or alcohol or whether she was texting. She wasn't issued a field sobriety test. She wasn't even asked how fast she was going. And it wasn't like she was some model driver. Court records show Nadine has a long history of being a shitty driver. She was charged with using a cell phone while driving in 2016, though apparently was dismissed as part of a plea deal. In 2012, she pled guilty to running a red light and paid $85. She was charged with the same thing in Jersey City in 2005, although I couldn't find out how that case played out. In 2007, she pled guilty to improper passing and again paid $85. Even after this collision in 2021, she pled guilty to again using a cell phone while driving and paid the princely sum of $240. The man who owned the parked car that she hit right after she hit Richard remembered how the cops treated her that night. Quote, "I don't know if she was well known or lived nearby or the police knew her, but there appeared to be a lot of secrecy. I remember saying, That woman is just allowed to leave? She's not being arrested or anything? Same, brother. The man also recalled hearing her repeatedly telling officers that she was going to call someone. And indeed, someone did come to the scene to help her out. Michael Mordaga, a retired Hackensack police detective who had also been the chief of detectives for the Bergen County Prosecutor's Office. It's important to note that Bogota is in Bergen County. And here's where it becomes plainly obvious why Mordaga is there. He's on the body cam footage saying,
Yeah, no, that's why I said I don't interfere with you guys at all.
She's not under.
I don't even know. That's my buddy's wife, who's friends with her. And he said, could you do me a favor and take her up there because her friend just got in a car accident.
Gotcha.
So I don't even know.
He then asked the officers if the prosecutor will need to get involved. And the officers say no, that they're going to release her. Later, when the Bogota PD Criminal Investigation Unit arrived to process the scene, they were basically told, never mind, no criminal charges were going to be filed. Based on nothing more than Nadine's word, the investigating officer determined that she was not at fault. Instead, he placed the blame on Richard, stating Mr. Koop was jaywalking and did not cross the street at an intersection or a marked crosswalk. If you want to learn more about why jaywalking is a uniquely American piece of bullshit that was designed specifically to make car manufacturers more money, check out this video by Not Just Spikes, and prepare to get orange-pilled. After the collision, Nadine went with Mordaga to the dinner party. Her Mercedes, which had been severely damaged, was impounded. Soon after the accident, as she called it, Nadine contacted her friend Wael Hana, the Egyptian-American businessman who's also been indicted in this bribery scheme. The DOJ says that she sent multiple text messages to him complaining about the fact that she didn't have a car. So, allegedly, Bob Menendez and another New Jersey businessman who was close to Wael Hana, Jose Uribe, came to an agreement on how to fix that for her. According to the DOJ's indictment, Bob agreed to call a prosecutor at the New Jersey Attorney General's office in order to pressure him to go easy on a third person, a relative of Jose Uribe's who was being investigated for insurance fraud. Jose, in return, agreed to buy a new 2019 Mercedes-Benz convertible for Nadine. Again, allegedly, after Jose paid the $15,000 down payment and set up the financing for the monthly payments, Bob brought that prosecutor investigating Jose's relative into his Senate office, where he convinced them to drop the investigation. A few days after Bob struck that deal, Nadine texted Wael, "All is great! I'm so excited to get a car next week!" Exclamation point, exclamation point. In April 2019, 4 months after killing Richard Koop, Nadine signed the paperwork to purchase her new Mercedes, which is estimated to be worth about $60,000. She texted Jose, "You are a miracle worker who makes dreams come true. I will always remember that." Once she had the keys in her hot little hands, she messaged Bob to celebrate. "Congratulations, mon amour de la vie. We are the proud owners of a 2019 Mercedes." Meanwhile, Richard Koop's friends and family were left without answers. His sister, Rosemarie Koop Angelicola, said the family got very little information from the local authorities, and there wasn't even a news report on it, even though his death had been the only traffic fatality in that town in a decade. The family really has had serious concerns over what we felt was a very sparse, one-sided investigation, she said in an interview. Definitely a lack of legal enthusiasm to take the case, definite lack of media coverage, and a lack of communication by the authorities of Bergen County. We felt that the whole thing was very silently swept under the rug. The family was able to sue Nadine's insurance for Richard's death, and they won the maximum amount, $60,000. But ever since the Menendezes have been charged with bribery, this case has generated a lot more attention, and the New Jersey Attorney General has launched an investigation into how the collision was handled by the local law enforcement. And already they've uncovered what they allege to be several factual errors in the prosecutor's report of that crash, including one very basic, easily verifiable fact. The report says that Richard had been crossing the road heading south, but the surveillance footage clearly shows him heading north towards his house. Then there's the way it was investigated at the time. The police department's Fatal Accident Investigation Unit estimated that Nadine had only been driving between 22 and 27 miles an hour, below the 30-mile-an-hour posted speed limit, when she struck Richard. Their calculations were based on the distance that they believed Richard's body traveled after it was hit, 37 feet. Another independent crash analysis expert said those calculations would only be valid in the absence of other evidence like skid marks, paint transfer between cars, or the car's onboard computer data. It also doesn't account for the fact that his body wasn't thrown from the impact. It was thrown when she braked after the impact. Now, I'm not an engineer or anything. I'm just some broad with a YouTube channel and some strong opinions. But as someone who's really into pedestrian safety, I know that if she had truly been traveling at 22 to 27 miles per hour, there would not have been that much damage done to her windshield. According to most sources, if a pedestrian is struck by a vehicle going at that speed, there would only be a 7 to 10% chance of a fatal injury. Based on my completely unscientific guesstimation, I think she was doing closer to 40. If you know how to figure out her speed based on the damage to her car, please let me know in the comments. So, what are your thoughts about this case? Had you heard about it before? Let me know in the comments. And if you like this video, click the like button and subscribe for more deep dives like this. You can also support me on Patreon or click the membership button to help me make more videos like this. Till next time.